This is Loopline, and in this video I want to go over a basic guide to the harvesting segment of Scrapebox. So jumping right in, we have the footprints box here and our custom and platform options and then the keyword box, and these all work together. Whatever we put in the footprint box up here will be appended to the left side or the beginning of this with a space. Or without a space rather. So we can do like site, and if this was all domains, it would pull the site pages from those. We could do site like car.com, and then it would pull the actual keywords here along with this as your footprint. If I wanted to choose platforms now, I get a choice, and I can choose something like Icy Guestbook and then maybe like WordPress, and it's going to tack on a WordPress footprint and an Icy Book Guestbook footprint to each keyword, not together but separately. So I'd have car and Icy Book and then car and WordPress. Now if I do stick something up here and the platforms, it's going to mix those all together. So if you're not getting results for some reason, that's something to look at to make sure that that's all going to work together. So saying custom footprint here, and let's say I don't want this, which by the way there is a drop down that keeps track of the ones you have. I can just hit clear and clear that out. So I've got some keywords here that we got in a previous video, and also in a previous video we talked about proxies and how to do all those. So if you need those videos, you can watch those. We have the custom harvester and the detailed harvester. You see these little pop-ups. The detailed harvester gives you some statistics, as well as it is single threaded with a maximum of 4 engines. And so we could pick 4 engines and we get more statistical information about it, and we have some proxy options, that sort of thing. But we're not really going to talk about that. If I wanted to use it, you can see I can pick my engines here, and if I go over, it gives me this little notice, and when we hit start, it'll go through here, give us the engine, the keyword used, harvesting, that sort of thing. So, and then we get these statistics when it's done. We can export different things and that sort of thing. And then I'm just going to close out of this and go back to the custom harvester. Now the custom harvester has different settings that apply to it, so let's have a look at those. Under connections, timeouts, and other settings, we first have our connections, which is basically just our harvester connections. We have an enable advanced settings, which turns these things red, and we can actually then go up to 3,500 connections instead of only a maximum of 500. There is a little pop-up here that'll tell you that it's only meant for server use and not meant for home computer use or office computer use. Also, you want to bear in mind that 3,500 connections is a lot and could quickly obviously burn out proxies. Anyways, I'm only going to set it here to 2 connections. And actually, let's go back. Timeouts, I just use the defaults. You can mess with them different ways. If you need to go slower, like have a higher timeout because you have slow proxies, you can do that. The defaults are generally pretty good in most things, including the defaults here. So if you know what you want to do here, you can do it. Otherwise, you can just use the defaults. But a little bit of explanation. Proxy retries, that's the number of retries. So if we have a keyword like car over here or Pullman, and it tries one proxy and then it doesn't work, it'll try another proxy. And this is the number of proxies, different proxies to try before it gives up on that keyword and skips to the next one. And then the timeout as well for the harvester proxy, and you can run that all the way up here. And then here, whenever Scrapebox gets an error page, you can set the number of retries for an error page. Again, defaults are good, and then this is the number of redirects for Scrapebox to follow. So these 3 settings down here are a little different. Remove failed proxies. Basically what happens is Scrapebox starts with an array, in this case 11 proxies, or however many proxies you have loaded, 100, 200, 1,000, whatever. And then once it finds a proxy is bad and it's failing, it will remove that from the list if you check this box. So that way you're not wasting a lot of time retrying the same dead proxies over and over and over again. That can be handy, especially if you use it in conjunction with an auto load file, because when Scrapebox runs out of proxies, it will then auto load automatically unless you have it set to auto load with X number of minutes. But if you don't, which we'll talk about that in a minute, it can auto load the proxies from a file. So if you pay for a service or you have it set up with an automator run to always be generating proxies, that's great. If you're using, say, a service like a back connect proxy service where the IP is automatically changed on the back end, you don't want to use this because Scrapebox will remove those proxies not knowing that it's automatically going to get a new IP. So that's how that works. The do not reload harvested URLs into harvester grid when closing. What that means is if you go and scrape, in this case 403 URLs, those URLs are auto-saved to a file in the harvester sessions folder, which is in your main Scrapebox folder. Now, if you don't check this box, they also get loaded back into here. If I want to check this box, they won't get loaded back into here. They just stay in that file. But they're in the Harvester Sessions file either way. The advantage here would be if I harvest 190 million URLs, trying to load those back into here just takes processor and time and memory usage and that sort of thing. So it can just be convenient to not have them loaded back in, especially like say it's on an automator run where it's just running and running and running. Then it's just wasting time and resources. So that's how that works. Save additionally keywords with URLs. What that does is, as you can see, it puts the keyword and then the pipe character here and then the URL itself. Now, if we check that off, we can do a little test here with a little run, and we can hit start here. And what we see is this. So it gives us our normal file, which is just the URLs, and that gets saved, but also a new file is created in the Harvester Sessions folder with this name right here, and it has our keywords and our URLs in it. So both files get created when you use that feature, and you can see up here it shows that that feature is active. Pretty handy if you want to be able to track your keywords and your URLs. In this case, I'm not doing any kind of research, so I'm just going to uncheck that. And then let's go ahead and do a harvester run here, and we can see that proxies, server proxies were disabled. What server proxies are is, and I have proxies turned off here, so it's telling me this. Server proxies are something that Scrapebox offers in Scrapebox version 2. They have cloud servers out there that constantly scrape and then filter proxies and keep a pre-filtered list of working proxies. If you tick this box, Scrapebox will automatically download that list from the server and then use those proxies in addition to your current proxies, or just use those proxies exclusively. Now that can be super handy, but also bear in mind that if you're trying to do like Google, for instance, those could be being used by a very large portion of the Scrapebox user base, so they may get banned very quickly. Earlier we were talking about the proxies from a file. Here we can select an autoload proxy file. Again, if you have a service or you use the automator to constantly generate a file that has working proxies in it, you can select that file. This lets you enable that feature so that it does select that file and keep loading it. If you check nothing else, Scrapebox will automatically reload that file and refresh the proxies from that file every time it runs out of working proxies. Here, this will load after X minutes, and then here you get to set how many minutes it will load after. So I could set it for like every 10 minutes or every hour or whatever. And so that's the basic functions. As far as scraping goes, it's pretty straightforward. We just hit start and it will go through and give us an average URLs, max URLs, time, gives us the URLs harvested, and it gives us, when things are completed, status, that sort of thing. So I'm not going to go too deep here because I'm not actually using proxies. Looks like I had my IP banned from Ask there because it didn't get any results. And I did have results set to only 75, which is why it only got 75 for each one of those. This is a nice statistics screen. I can export this to a couple of options here, and then I have my legend here to show the colors. And then here I have my main screen again. We can close out of that. And that is how you harvest with Scrapebox. And that's the basic functions and the basic concepts and the settings. And then, of course, I have my URLs loaded over here, and I have all kinds of options that we'll talk about in another video of things that I can do with those URLs. And that is the Scrapebox Harvester.